Let's face it, a lot of us know people who are in toxic relationships who, struggle from things like depression, anxiety, mental disorders, and I just really want to talk about that today and how to help you guys out when it comes to these situations. Peace and love, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Sheldon and I help raise the vibrational frequency of this planet by helping people really ascend their consciousness. Now, in this video, I'm going to dive into things like depression, things like anxiety, toxic relationships, how to avoid them, how to get out of them, and what really attracts them. And the kind of the trend that happens when we talk about things like mental disorders. So along my early journey, I used to struggle with things like anxiety, depression at times. I wasn't severely depressed, but at times I was depressed. And over the years, and as time kind of went on and I got to learn who I truly am, I became more aware of myself. I started realizing the root of these problems, and it all happens in your head. So depression and anxiety start in the head and then they become physical. I know for sure when I had anxiety, I used to have panic attacks all the time. And what was happening was I was telling myself something in my head that might not have been true. And then my body would start reacting. I remember used to be at the gym and I was always very concerned about my heart rate, for example. Like I see a lot of people that this is where it kind of stems. I was always very concerned about my heart rate, and I would always be checking my pulse and always very concerned about my heart. So what's happening is I'm literally putting in my mind that my heart's not okay, essentially, right? When that happens, your body starts reacting because everything happens in the mind first. When you tell your mind something, then a certain emotion starts, sparking. It's the same thing when you start living in the past. So a lot of people that live in the past will live in anxiety and fear because they're constantly thinking about the past and thinking about what they did, and you're holding on to specific thoughts that create specific emotions. So these emotions keep being brought back up from the past, and that's what continues the cycle of anxiety and depression, right? Is for people that live in the past. So what really helped me was starting to learn to become more present and starting to learn that whatever I put in my mind is how my body is going to start reacting. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of practice and meditation and solitude and really getting to know myself to start stepping out of those boundaries and start stepping away from things like anxiety and depression. But it didn't happen overnight. So I really know what a lot of people are going through when it comes to these things. But I do know that it is mental and you can fix it. The problem is people think they need medication, and they go and they take these medications that just mask this issue and they create more problems. So, the best health is you. Like, you are it. You can, cure anything. Whether you believe it or not, whether you've been led to believe it or not, there's a cure for absolutely everything out there, and it's all in your mind. It's all in your diet. Right? So we got to really be aware of, what our thought process is and start becoming an observer of our thoughts. And in turn, it's going to help us with things like anxiety and depression. Like I said, I remember being at the gym and I would always be checking my pulse. And then, when I was doing that, it actually started mimicking things like a heart attack. My arm would start going numb. I would start getting a panic attack, which is very similar to, having a heart attack as far as the symptoms are concerned, right? But it was all happening in my mind. So once I started realizing this, I was able to start taking control of my thoughts and observe my thoughts and know where they're coming from and realize that it's not me. That there's no reason to think like that. And once I was able to step out of those boundaries once again, I was able to live a happier life. I was no longer in anxiety and depression. So we really need to take control of our mental state in order to be healthier in our lives. It all starts in the head. Everything is in the head. Everything happens up here before you feel any sort of emotions, right? That's what happens with the law of attraction too. I mean, if you're attracting a certain type of energy, it's going to continue snowballing. That's why anxiety and depression lasts a long time, because you continue to attract that energy. You continue to think that something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. That's what the energy you're sending out, and the emotions you're sending out too. The thought happens first, the emotion happens second, but both of these are being sent out and they're coming back to you. So that continues to snowball in your life. So we need to really be aware of our thoughts and start training our mind to think in a more positive way. And that happens through meditation. Always goes back to meditation, because meditation is the practice where you can start observing and controlling your thought process. Once you control your thoughts, you control your whole reality. So if you would like to step away from anxiety and depression, you need to start controlling your mind. And meditation is the best practice. And there's several ways to do it. You can do transcendental meditation, repeating a 3-syllable mantra in your head over and over and over again. And when you start to find that your thoughts are coming in and you're stepping away from this mantra, then you go right back into it. And eventually you get into a deep state of meditation. And this will help you control your thought process and slow your mind down. And in turn, you're going to start being more aware of your thoughts on a daily basis. Eating habits are a very good example of what causes anxiety as well. When you're eating a dead animal or a slaughtered animal, energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred. So you're also ingesting that energy that animal was feeling. Of course it was feeling depression and anxiety when it's in a slaughterhouse. Wouldn't you? Right? Fear. So I learned that I was eating, animal products, and I was eating animals. And that was also causing my anxiety. So once I started taking care of myself, taking care of my mental health, and taking care of my body, and being very aware of what I was putting in, I started stepping into a happier life. So this is really how you're going to step away from things like anxiety and depression and just start leading a happier life. Is by just taking care of your mental health, and also watch what you're consuming. TV, food, people, all of it. You have to really be aware of what's happening around you in order to create a happier life for yourself. It starts with you. You have to think about what's very toxic for you and what's causing these things. It starts in the head for sure, but there's also a lot of external things that could be playing a factor as well. Now, toxic relationships are essentially the same thing, right? If you have a very low standard for yourself, you're going to attract a low standard person. So I highly suggest that you start thinking very highly of yourself and knowing that you can attract exactly what you need and exactly what you want. Instead of, thinking, I always attract a certain type of guy. If that's the pattern that you're repeating in your head, that's the experience that you're recycling in your reality. So you need to step out of that and start thinking that you're going to start attracting the better person for you, someone that's going to lift you up, someone that's not abusive. And it's not essentially easy, especially when you've been in a relationship for a very long time, and maybe you don't even know it's toxic. But if you're feeling a certain type of way, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety and depression about a relationship that you're in, you need to start assessing what's good for you and what's not. Is being with that specific person really good for you and good for you in the long run? Or is it going to be better to step away? No matter how you have to do it. Start thinking about the best possible outcome. I always repeat to myself when something's, not perfect, if you will, that, the best possible outcome is the only outcome possible. I always repeat that to myself. And it always becomes the best possible outcome. Because I just have a firm belief and trust that everything that I need will always come to me at the perfect time. And it always does. Because I believe that. Because I repeat that. Because I feel those emotions. So if you want to attract a better type of person, start thinking highly of yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and know that you are the best version of you possible. Speak about yourself in the highest version ever. You're a king or you're a queen. That's it. We're all kings and queens here. Everyone. No one is different. The only thing that's different is your experience and your mentality. But once you can start getting a hold of this, your whole reality will start shaping to the way you want it to. And it'll start becoming beautiful and filled with joy and bliss and happiness. So as soon as we start changing our thought process about things like anxiety, what's happening in our heads, relationships, we're going to start to see a better experience play out in our reality. And that's pretty much the gist of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please press the like button, comment, subscribe, press the notification bell, share the video, and we'll be back soon. Thanks a lot. Peace and love.